What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Sana hindi kayo nag-antay masyado. It's time for us to start grading our teams. Let's call in our guest once more. Ako nga pala si Leo. Kasama natin, syempre, We Bear Bros. It's Naisu. It's Amon/Renmar. And of course, Gideon Q, our friend from Malaysia. Gideon, we're all super thankful that you're here and you're gonna grade Filipino teams. Are you ready?
I'm a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie, but let's give it a shot. I'm ready for it.
Okay, so let's drop the rules, okay? Guys, in chat, you can also grade our teams. Once the lineup comes up, you can grade them from between 70 to 100, okay? So 70, 80, 90, 100. We'll do the same thing, and we'll average it at the end. So there's 6 Filipino teams that partook in MPL Invitational, and we all have our sentiments. That's one way of putting it. But yeah, numbers aren't enough. We have to kind of explain. So let's start now. The first team that we're gonna be grading, guys, sali kayo chat, I'm watching, is Next Play Evos. This is a very different Next Play Evos. Obviously, many different faces from what we're used to from the regular season, even in the playoffs. They went really deep in the playoffs, honestly. But it's a different squad that we saw, different performance. So let's start with Naisu. Naisu, what kind of grade do we give Next Play Evos from what you watched?
Is it too late to change our score now? Okay. You know what? Okay. Here's the thing. At first I wanted to give them an 80, right? The reason behind that is because knowing that they went into an international tournament of this level, of this gravity, and going against the teams that they had to go against, I gave them an 80. But performance-wise, I guess since this is a grade, I would have to give them a 70 because obviously there was a lot of expectations for them, and it just performance-wise, it just kind of fell flat. So I was originally going to give them an 80. I give them a 70 based on their report card performance.
Oh, all right. Amon, that sounded like a very loaded. What kind of grade do you give it?
Yeah. Okay, I misread the initial instructions, so I thought it was like 0 to 100. Initially, I gave Next Play Evos a 30. I gave them a 30 in my initial list. It's 20 points for letting Kaizen and Sanford play. I'm always a fan for letting your newer players and your younger players get experience. So even though, Renegade and H2 didn't play, they let the young kids play, and I'm really happy about that. That's a great experience for them. That's something that they can take with them and really learn from. And then for the 10 points for participation and still trying to give it their all. But I gave them a 70 as my score. If 70 is going to be your lowest here, if you followed MPLPH Season 8, and then you watched them in MPLI, this really just didn't feel like the Next Play Evos that I'm used to, that we're used to in the Philippines. So 70.
Yeah. You know what? I kind of follow the same grading schema as you do, Renmar. So 100, right? You start with 100. I dock 50 points because they did not play they did not use Renegade. So minus 50. So they start at 50. And then I give them 10 points each for letting Kaizen and Sanford play. So they're at 70. That's it. 70! But besides Hitman-based scoring, I wanted to give them something like 60 as well. Because again, it was so unacceptable. I do not like what they did. I'm sure that they have more. That's the thing. I know that they can do better. That's why their performance was so much all the more heartbreaking for me. Nothing against the players, nothing against the org. It's just the game wasn't great. Like what they showed. They got swept by RBG. So I don't like it. Yeah. How about you, Gideon? Let's wash out the bad taste, bro.
Yeah, no worries. How do I put this? I feel like, especially for Next Play Evos, I think I was very excited for them going into MPLI, but considering the moves that they did, I definitely appreciate kind of them showing to their younger members, the next generation of what Next Play Evos is going to start looking like for the future, a good taste of what internationals is like, because it gives your players perspective. It gives them an idea. It's like, you could be the best in the Philippines, but why does that matter? We have the rest of the world to look at, right? And keeping that in mind, it keeps the players hungry. And I think they're just setting the foundation
for potentially M3 and the following years to come, which I think is number one, a great idea. It doesn't change the fact that they didn't perform as well, and like Renmar just mentioned, if you were following them throughout the regular season, which I was, just to see what this team would look like compared to what they played during MPLI, there's a stark difference. But I appreciate the bold moves that they're willing to play. I also believe that they've set their standards higher. Even if they don't win MPLI, to them, it's not that big of a deal. M3 is going to be the big one. And considering all those factors, I'm going to give them a flat score of 80.
80 for effort. I see where you're coming from. I see you give honor to the fact that they tried. So that's something. That's something. And to come from a Malaysian, to come from someone not from the Philippines, I'm sure that means a lot to Next Play Evos. We'll move on. Let's talk about the next team. Commentary says, bagsak Next Play Evos, summer class daw, off season. I don't know.
Oh my god.
Here's another team that represented the Philippines but got a first round elimination in the hands of another Filipino. They were defeated very swiftly by ONIC Philippines. Team SMGM, hope you're happy. This is Smart Omega. Smart Omega, what kind of grade do we give them? They fielded their classic team. This is their MPL Season 8 team. 6. This is literally the team right here. Ryzen in the jungle. Let's start with Renmar. Renmar, what do you think of Smart Omega's performance?
It was actually quite hard to grade Smart Omega considering that I gave NXP a 70 and the next team I gave a higher score than that. But I couldn't give the same score to the next team as Smart Omega because they fell down to ONIC. I would have been okay with giving them a higher score if it meant that if they were able to get out of the first round. But again, the curse of them not being able to beat ONIC is still there, or at least having a difficult time against ONIC. PH is still there. We couldn't give 75, so it was just 70 in the end there.
Okay.
I wish I could
All
give
right.
them a 75, but we're doing it by tens. I can't give them an 80. I'll explain later. But Smart Omega, they weren't as underwhelming as NXPE because the matches against ONIC PH were competitive. They were fun. It felt like I was watching MPL PH. Smart Omega looked like if they won that series, they maybe could have taken it to RRQ, but they weren't able to. 70.
Yeah. It looked like just ONIC had their number. That's just exactly what it was. Ever since the playoffs, ONIC had their number. And one thing is, you can't blame them. And then another is, it's not an excuse. So, with that being said, I'll take the higher ceiling. I'm close to Renmar. I want to give him 75. But maybe for the sake of it, because I love him, I'll give him an 80. Smart Omega gets an 80 from me. We'll close up and have Naisu grade them last because he did rap for them. So Gideon, what kind of grade do you give our MSC champions here? Smart Omega.
Yeah, look, I mean, this one was really, really disappointing for me because obviously they got really unlucky being paired up against, of all teams, ONIC PH, which, again, ONIC just seems to have every other PH team's number just ready to go. They've got the pamphlet, they've got the manuals just ready to set off, and I wanted to see more of Omega. I'm not gonna lie, I really wanted to see more of Omega, especially with their overall international performances. Time and time again, they don't do too bad, and most of the time they usually do some great research to come up with some form of counterplay, whether it be in the draft or overall playstyle, especially against Indonesian teams. So that's something that I wanted to see, but didn't get to see, and ONIC just stopped that dreams so quickly. For me, I have to give them a 70. I would honestly, like Remar mentioned, if they managed to get out of that first round and we got to see them play against literally any other team that wasn't from the Philippines, I would have been so much more excited and more inclined to give them an 80 or even a 90, dependent on that performance. But right now, all I can say is just like, we didn't get to see enough. We didn't get the full mouth feel of Omega.
Yeah, there's so much left in the tank for our champions here, the Kings of C. But yeah, 70 because they cut it short, man. They could have gone so much further. Naisu, what you got, man? This is your team, bro.
Sweet and simple, bro. They're getting 100. No, I'm joking. So, No, real talk though. I want just like you guys, very very similar. You know, I wanted to see Omega obviously get further than they did. Unfortunately for them, they went against ONIC PH. If I could, realistically, I would give them a 75, but I'm going to give them an 80. The reason why I'm going to give them an 80, though, is just aside from, all jokes aside, I want to give them an 80 because I feel like what they brought to MPLI was so far from what we've seen throughout the season is their best version. And you have to give them the fact, too, that they played against ONIC PH, right? So very, very tough opponent for your first matchup. And I still want to say, I still enjoy the way that they played. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see them go further. So I'll keep it at that. I'll give them an 80.
All right. So, looking better than Next Play EVOS already. This is our grade for Smart Omega. We'll average this later at the end. We'll see all of that. I'm seeing the grades that you guys are giving. So, masaya ako. I'm so happy that the chat can see the effort in Smart Omega. And I'm also glad that we all share the same sentiments when it comes to Next Play EVOS. It's because we're such big fans. I love it. It's because we're fans. That's why it hurts them all the more. Let's talk about Echo now. Let's grade the Orcas, the killer whales here. They didn't field anything new. This was their main five, their basic main five from season 8. And to start, okay, I'm gonna take the fall here. I'll grade him first because as host, I usually get away with this. But Echo, I'll give him a solid 80. I'll give him an 80. They really didn't show us anything new. Nothing drastically has changed. But the fact that it had to take another Filipino team for them to drop means a lot. And it was RSGPH for that matter. So, and they took out 3 games. So I kind of like that Echo still is working on that Echo rivalry with RSG. So it was okay. 80 is the grade that we give acceptable performance. So that's me for Echo. I know Renmar's a fan of Echo. I know you geeked out over this series, the rivalry. What score do you give them?
I wanted to give them an 85, but I ended up with 80. Again, we're only doing it by tens, and yeah, agree with you. They were more than acceptable, more than adequate performance. All their series went to 3 games. They were nail biters. They were really competitive. Echo really looked like they wanted the deeper run in this. They brought everything to the table. They tried some things that didn't work. They stuck to things that they were familiar with. They made that work. Things with Rafleisha getting his Cho. Hades, again, for some reason, in a very important game number 2, coming up big with a Lancelot, starting it off in one series. He was 9-0 with a Lance. So this was classic Echo, and I feel like they're that student in the class where the teacher knows that there were other people who got really high scores, but the teacher's still proud of them. That you did great. I'm so proud of you. Be proud of that 80. Echo was really great.
Yeah. Echo is a hardworking classmate who's not exactly failing, but isn't shining right now. This person's gonna be fine after graduation, but in school they're they're coasting. That's what I feel for Echo right now in the off season. I don't know. Gideon, what kind of vibe do you get from Echo?
Look, I've been actually quite a big fan of Echo for a while now, and it's really sad to see the state that they're in, mainly because you don't see the latent potential of this team increase. You see them. This is their max point. This is their best performance. This is their maximum point. Can they go above and beyond that? And that's what we're hoping to see from Echo. But time and time again, they have hit this baseline or maybe a plateau in their own regards. Because just looking at their own pathways, right? Echo beating Aura, I think that one, even though it was a close series, this was something that should have been expected. I did expect Echo to knock out Aura, no problem. That wasn't the issue. Bigger issue, they had to go up against RSGPH later on, and even that one, I don't know. I don't know if it's something about dealing with Filipino teams, Filipino teams dealing with Filipino teams. It feels like it's a more clear game of rock, paper, scissors compared to if Filipino teams were dealing with other countries, for an example, where I think there's a little bit more consistency in terms of their research. However, for Echo, I really was hoping to see something new from them, something a little bit more fresh, a new idea, whether a new play style or more importantly, just something to show that they can go above and beyond. I think that's what I was looking for. And unfortunately for them, I had to give them the same as Omega. I'm giving them a 70 as well, because even though they are trying to show their best, it just isn't enough after so long.
Yeah. Those are really
Yeah,
good points, actually.
Yeah, it's the fan frustration. You're like, we should be seeing evolution right now, but where is it? And do note, I think we have to consider that they just lost their main ML coach, right? Arcadia's still there, but Dale just left. So there's also that factor, and you're wondering, where's the change? The absence of Dale should have unlocked a few things, but I see, I understand. Nice. How about you, man? What kind of grade do we give Echo?
This is the We Bear Bros right here, man. I'm giving them an 80 as well. To be honest, dude, bro, like, here's the thing. Everything you guys said is pretty much exactly what I was thinking. Actually, during the whole season, during MPL Philippines, I had like my eyes set on Echo, and I was waiting for them to break past some barrier I feel like they had, and they never broke past that barrier. And like even Renmar said it good, like, or I think it was one of you guys is like, they're like that person in class that is, they're just coasting, right? But you know they're going to be okay. And you, like, as a fan, kind of like what Gideon said, you want to see them break through that barrier, but they never did. And I feel like some major changes have to happen for their future for them to like get past a certain point, because they're obviously kind of hard stuck at a certain point right now. So I give them an 80.
Yeah.
Would have gone as far as giving them a 90 if we saw Benny Clinty. If we saw Benny Curie pick up the Clint or like something that's super off meta, then yeah, would have given them a higher grade. But all right, we'll let Naisu copy our grades. 80 for him. We'll see the average later on. Let's grade the next team here, and this next team is our M3 representative and grand finalist in Season 8, ONIC Philippines. This is the lineup that they brought, and we didn't see a shuffle. I don't think we saw a shuffle. Did we see the trademark ONIC shuffle wherein they traded the gold laners? I don't remember, man.
Nope.
That's how fast the tournament went by for me. Okay, so what's the grade we give them? I think I can go first here. Oh no. I have to remember my grade. I sense that I gave him a low grade. Oh no, I gave him an okay grade. I gave him an 80. I gave him an 80. They went deep, sure, especially for a team that had to start from round 1. But there were moments, especially that I know it's unconfirmed, but there's word on the grapevine where there was a small mishap when it came to picks during the last few games ONIC had. I don't know who's the official statement on that, but if it came down to the point where communication was breaking down, something's wrong, man. I'd hate to see that happen at M3. So that's what docked a few points from ONIC. So I'm just giving them an 80 here. Yeah. Kevin J said it. There you go. The draft, the blunder in the draft. There you go. I don't want to go into detail, but yeah, that sucks. So 80 for me. We'll keep it at that. Gideon, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know what
hear
you're
about
talking
this?
about here.
There you go.
Yeah, I did hear about this, obviously. But I think I don't know what's up with you guys in the Philippines, but it seems like y'all got the most things going on, and I just love sipping the tea. Like, ooh, what happened next? Did somebody break the rules again? What's the drama this time? You know, it's just looking at the Philippines. It's the best. I personally love it. You know, I like being the outside person. You get to watch from the outside, not really have to go through it, but still learn from it. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you grade? Not the incident, but what do you grade the team? ONIC PH. What do you give them?
Honestly, I think ONIC. I'm looking at my score that I gave ONIC PH. I think so far, other than the tea that has happened with them accordingly, the regular season has been looking really, really good. And more importantly, I think that ONIC PH kind of found a great style of play in the meta, that they are very focused and, more importantly, like to play around a lot. A very aggressive play style overall, which to me, it doesn't matter what game I'm playing. I like that style. I like when somebody is willing to take a 50-50, even if it's not in their favor, maybe even 60-40. They like the odds. They can tilt it in their favor. And for me personally, I'm going to be straight up giving ONIC PH a solid 90. Even though they were going up against RRQ, it was still a pretty difficult game. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I mean, beating Omega, all right, sure. They seem to be doing great against Filipino teams, but then afterwards, when they had to deal with some bigger teams, and especially at the state of which RRQ was at, like, could you really argue with it? I wouldn't really argue with it. RRQ was just looking way better that day.
All right. I love it. So you'd rather you looked at the good, you looked at the brighter side of things, and this looked like a very ONIC performance. I agree. Okay, cool. Let's see what Naisu thinks. Naisu, what kind of grade did you give ONIC PH?
I also gave them a 90. And the reason why is because, yes, it's kind of similar thing. They went against a very strong, right? They got beat out by RRQ, but RRQ was just the better team that day. I feel like with those teams, it's more of a toss-up, like who has the better day, right? And maybe the draft thing was a big thing. I don't know. But still, at the end of the day, with what ONIC Philippines brings to the table as a whole, as a team, even from our regular season, I still give them a 90 because I think that they're at their best form, and I can't wait. Honestly, I can't wait to watch them in M3. So I gave them a 90. It was close to an 85, but we're here with the 10, so I gave them a 90.
Okay, all right. Real quick before Renmar gives his grade, shoutouts to Ray Ashley. He just tuned in a little late, but yes, Weber Bros are on, and I did not know that the little girl's name was Chloe. Okay, so the little Asian girl is Chloe. All right, sorry Gideon, it is what it is.
Hey, you know what? As long as she's Asian, it's fine, I guess. Yeah.
Perfect. She also wears glasses, man, and she's very smart. I do believe she's like a bibliophile. So
yes.
There you go.
Yes, she is.
Right?
There you go.
Ray Ash, you're awesome. Always stay cool. All right. So Renmark, let's close up. What kind of grade do you give ONIC PH?
I especially for ONIC and Blacklist International, I set very high standards for them, so I give them an 80. If they took RRQ to 3 games and it was really close, I could have given them a 90. But then again, due to a possible mishap in the drafting for game number 2, gonna have to dock a lot of points for that because at this level, like, that shouldn't happen. But of course, things happen. Can't blame it. It's the professional scene. There really are some moments where, again, things happen and we can't avoid it. But I'm very happy with what they showed in that game number 1 where they dominated. And similar to how See You Soon had to go through that experience against BTR, coming from the losses to Blacklist International in the finals of MPL Season 8, and then losing to RQ like you did in game number 1, that's more reasons or more ways to refine your game, more input, more information, like, okay, we need to sort this out, especially when we're closing out games. You have to watch out for this in the late game, watch out for potential turnaround scenarios. So it's a solid 80 for ONIC PH.
All right, this is looking like it's coming up for the Filipino teams. Let's see if RSGPH continues the trend. Let's reset the scores and let's give the Kingslayers a grade for their MPLI performance. This is what a lot of us would call a rookie team. You see some vets, but it's mostly like a ragtag group of players that other teams have let go of. So free agents, if you will, and rookies that Coach Panda himself handpicked, put together, and raised up into what is now known as a team that can like steal wins against ONIC ID. What kind of scores do we give them? I'll start. I'll give them a solid 90, man. Especially after the way that they stole a win from ONIC ID. Like, nobody expected that. Honestly, people were expecting maybe a sweep. That's at least what I had, because not because I don't like RSGPH, not because I don't trust them, but more because that's ONIC ID, bro. And they were playing with Eman. Eman was a rookie. He didn't even play Season 8. So, yeah. I'm close to 100. 95 almost. But we'll play it conservatively. I'll give them a 90. So, that's my score. Gideon, what about you, man? Like, you seem to have thoughts as well. What kind of grade do you give RSGPH?
I enjoy your thoughts for sure. I think RSGPH, especially as you've mentioned it, Coach Panda, absolutely love the guy. Met him during MSC, and then we've been just chit chatting here and there once in a while. But overall, when he handpicked this team, it was really interesting because I wanted to see what he could do with accentuating what the team had. Because I think during the regular season of MPLPH, like RSGPH had their ups and downs for sure. When they were looking good,
Yeah.
they were looking really solid, especially when they had that playbook. But I think one of their biggest problems was adapting to teams on the fly, right? When you have to understand and identify that, okay, our current strategy is not working, we have to play from a different side of the map, or we have to play through a different player, which you can tell that they're a little uncomfortable, but it got better throughout the season. Now, RSG coming into MPLI didn't have too much expectations, especially when it came down to Filipino teams. I think RSGPH overall just had better preparation for Filipino teams than most other teams out there, and they were taking out Echo, as expected. Didn't really expect too much from that game, unfortunately. Moving on, they eventually had to go up against ONIC ID, which Leo did mention that they stole a game away. Was I expecting them to win the series? No, but to steal a game, I wouldn't say it was too far-fetched. I feel like with enough preparation, right, RSG Philippines can do a lot. Their main issue for me, which docks them some points, is the fact that they cannot adapt on the fly. If it doesn't follow to the rule book, then it's a little hard to kind of adapt to a new plan. They can't think of it on the fly, and that's something that a lot of teams in the Philippines have ahead against them. And it's mainly because they're new. They're really like, they've got veterans, as Leo mentioned, veterans as well as younger players. There's still so much for them to learn. So with that in mind, I am giving them a solid 80.
All right.
There.
Yeah. Again, that fact of not being able to evolve on the fly, that's a very RSGPH thing. Because Gideon, I don't know if you know this, but they've been trying to solve a problem internally for the past 3 or 4 weeks of regular season. Coach Panda was very vocal about it. Like, the problem's still there, guys. Sorry, we lost. And then it comes in and out every week. So yeah, very characteristic here of the Kingslayers. How about you, Naisu? What kind of grade do we give RSGPH? I know you're a big fan of the team as well.
I'm a big fan, and you know what? You gotta let me go before Gideon because he's saying everything I'm thinking. But okay, seriously though, I also gave them an 80. The reason being for that is because, as pretty much mentioned, I feel like they rely on one thing. And yes, I'm a big fan of RSG. I loved casting their games and seeing them develop. But I gave them an 80 because, especially from, I was previously a teacher, right? So when I grade things, like, I want to give them an 80 because they have so much room to grow, and giving them this score is kind of like saying, you guys are following one path. You need to find that, like Gideon said, adaptability to be one of the best teams. Because I feel like the potential is there to be one of the best teams, especially with the squad that they have. It's just, again, it's not relying on one game plan. So hopefully during this time leading into the next season and everything, they have the time to figure that out, because I think there's truly something special there for RSG. But they have so much room to grow. So I gave them an 80.
Okay, noted on the score, and as well for the last team, you're going before Gideon. Okay, nice too. I'll write that down. Renmar, how about you, man? What kind of grade do you give RSGPH?
I give them a 90. Although I do agree with the points of Gideon and Naisu, similar to what Gideon mentioned about Echo having the ceiling, RSG has that ceiling as well, and it'll take a time, or hopefully in the future we will see them break through it, because that's when they'll really excel. But that's the reason why I gave them 90, where the ceiling is there. They can't seem to break through it, but it seems like they're always just so close to actually getting through that ceiling, wherein they were able to take away a game from ONIC ID. Yes, we have to give focus into the fact that it wasn't Salsa playing that time. It was we call him Surf Lance. It's Sir FD Lance, but we just went Surf Lance. And even though he didn't play as well as Sasa did, he still played in a really good level, as long as the rest of ONIC ID. But then RSGPH were able to take that game number one while he was there, and they did a really damn good job at it. And the fact that even though you have the ceiling and you can still take your strengths, your playbook, and still apply to the point where you can take one game away. The only team to take one game win in the entire quarterfinals. Everyone else couldn't. If you see that, it's 2-0 on the left, 2-0 on the bottom left, and then 2-0 on the bottom right, and then right there at the top right, RSG got that 2-1 over the eventual champions. They deserve that 90 from me.
Love it. And I think, Renmar, you meant Sans, not Sasa.
Sans, sorry.
Yes.
I always confuse it. Sans, Sasa. It's close. Sorry about that.
Sasa is now a Malaysian player. I mean, he's playing for Team SMG.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what Gideon was
SMG.
like, what? Well, we're talking about Sasa. But question, sorry, Sasa wasn't with SMG, MPLI. Where was he? What was he up to?
Unfortunately, he got into a bit of an accident. He wasn't exactly feeling his 100%. So,
Oh.
No.
Okay, so
what
maybe
to do.
maybe that's one of those keys again, like why SMG didn't look like SMG at MPLI. So yeah,
it happens.
any news you think he's gonna be okay for M3? He's gonna make it? Yes.
He should be able to make it for M3, no issues whatsoever. So we'll hopefully Team SMG will be back up to speed and getting better from then on when M3 starts.
Okay, cool, love it. That little mishap brought us into a little bit of news. Okay, so Sasa gonna play for M3 hopefully. Okay, last team to grade, and of course our defending champions back to back. They made it to the grand finals, but didn't quite make it to claiming the title. MPLI grand finalist BLACKLIST International. I'll be last because I think my bit's gonna be very spicy. Agents are not gonna enjoy what I have to say. Naisu, why don't you go first, man?
All right, man. I gave this. It would have been a 95, but I gave them 100. Okay, I gave them 100. The reason being is because yes, there are champions, and on top of the fact that they're just the entire season that they played, right? They're very dominant, and I feel like going into the MPLI, BLACKLIST was our best bet at going toe-to-toe with these other teams from, these other countries. And I feel like they showed that. Now, yes, they lost to Indonesia in the grand final, but I still think they're evenly matched teams. If BLACKLIST, the reason why it was supposed to be a 95, kind of similar to what I said for RSG, they rely so much on the Ube strategy, but BLACKLIST is such an experienced team and they have so much synergy that they're able to somewhat adapt, but they still rely on the Ube strategy, whereas RSG doesn't really have that yet. So I think BLACKLIST International, they're still toe-to-toe with ONIC Indonesia, in my opinion. They just have to be critical on not making those mistakes or getting caught out. Because, let's be honest, any team, that can happen to any team. We've seen it before in other MPLs. We've seen it in our own. And I feel like in another day, it could have been Indonesia, ONIC Indonesia, that messed up, got caught out, made a mistake, right? And BLACKLIST is very even with them. So overall, I give them 100. And I hope to see them come in with some new strategy or a new code, if you will, for M3.
Okay. All right, 100 still. Okay, very proud. And again, A for effort here. Naisu. Gideon, what kind of grade do you give the MPL Season 8 champions?
I mean, your champions are great. I think, to be fair in this matchup, I think everybody in MPLI had their eyes on BLACKLIST International. You got to give them credit for that. The spotlight was on them. They were the team to beat. Even the Indonesian teams recognized that BLACKLIST International was a problem they'd eventually run into one way or another. I think their overall play style was the U-base strategy, as you mentioned, very, very effective. But I think if we really break it down even further, I think BLACKLIST International is by far one of the most frustratingly patient teams ever. I've never seen a team play so slowly in my life and make a 2 to 3K lead or deficit feel like it doesn't mean anything at all. It's frustrating to deal with. They're just like an absolute annoying defensive team that just will wait for you to make that one mistake before they press the advantage, which is something that you either hate or love. To be a Malaysian watching my teams try to go up against Blacklist International and they just grind you down for like a solid 20 minutes and it's like a 60 to 60 goal lead, and it's just like, what's the point? What's the point of like 10 minutes of that game? We could have just completely skipped that over and jumped to the good parts. I give Blacklist International a score of 100. I think they played an extremely good game against ONIC Indonesia. It did come down to the very few mistakes, but I think that's something that Blacklist International, they know for themselves. They have a very clear identity, what they are great at and what they really struggle with. Do I think they have the best mechanics in the world? Absolutely not. And I think that's where ONIC Indonesia had them beat on those few moments in that game. As, you know, Naisu did say, if this was another day, it probably would have been 50-50. It could have been a 3-2. It could have been a 2-3. It could have been a 1-3 in favor of Blacklist. But ONIC Indonesia, they just had much better preparation. They were really feeling themselves after smacking AE as well. So I think ONIC Indonesia, that they just were playing so much better.
All right. 200s back to back. 200s. All right. Renmar, Eamon's Gargoyle. What you got?
Eamon's Gargoyle. Okay, thank you. For Blacklist International, I am like, one of the reasons why I'm proud that they're our champions in the Philippines is that they set themselves a really high standard. They don't pressure themselves to be the champion, but they set themselves a standard of playing like champions. So when it comes to losses, I'm not afraid to criticize Blacklist International, constructively, because that's how they really carry themselves with we're Blacklist International. This is a standard we set. So I'm giving them a 90 for this one. Because I think a lot of us did expect them to, or were predicting that they would be the champs. Bias aside, we also thought that maybe if it were going to be a lot of games in the grand finals, it would have gone to a game number 5, which we didn't see. Although we did see game number 5. Game number 5. Yeah, no, game number 5. Correct. And it's weird. I mean, I'm okay with giving them a 90 because, okay, let's look at the positives. They were really great against, I believe, BTR in the quarterfinals. Yeah, yeah, BTR, right?
Swept
In
them.
their bracket, it was BTR. They swept BTR. They had an absolutely thrilling game in their next series against RRQ, which of course we saw the absolutely legendary call of Oh My Venus to force that Lord and then force that win. That was just, if we talk about Blacklist and their Ube, when Blacklist pulls a surprise like that, oh god, it's so great to watch, and it led to a win. But then up against ONIC Indonesia, I'm not afraid to say I was disappointed in the outcome. But I think a lot of people are too. It's also a testament though to what Gideon said, where ONIC Indonesia just came into this like the better team, and that really happens. Like, that's the nature of sports. One team will just come in better, and then at the end of the day, they're going to be the ones who win it all. And Blacklist, I feel like they also. It didn't feel like Blacklist at times watching them in that grand finals, because they were committing errors. We have the term here, we call it giggle. It's this eagerness to force something to make it happen, and we saw that a few times for Blacklist, which we rarely see, because every time they do something, it's like super calculated in like less than a microsecond. Like, yeah, this will be a win for us, and it will end up becoming a win. So hopefully they iron out those kinks. So for now, it's a 90. But again, like with big losses, it's gonna be a great learning experience for Blacklist International to be even more ready. Maybe even show a newer code for M3. So I'm excited for them in M3.
All right, so 200s, a 90, and real quick before I give them a score here, shout outs to our friends in chat. Laila, thanks for the stars again. She appreciates the words from Gideon. Again, as a Malaysian, looking at what Blacklist is doing, it's very frustrating, and again, that's what makes them a strong team right now. As well to Kevin and to Ray, we have fans of Key and Peele in the house. Okay, now my score for Blacklist. Taking a few pages from Manaisu's book as a teacher from the previous team. I want to give Blacklist an 80. All right, so very far from the 100, close to the 90. But I'm not even gonna say 85, and then I just became conservative. It's an actual 80, guys. Why? It's because, not to take away from what they did to BTR and how good their match was against RRQ, especially that call by V, which is also in my head like half a call for Edward, because Edward died, but Edward ate like all the oats. So I think that's why that call was so good. It's because V knew that there were no more oats because Edward took all of them. So, you know, it was a team effort as well. So all that aside, it was so evident in that ONIC matchup that it wasn't just ONIC was ready. It's also that Blacklist showed cracks. And as a teacher, as a coach, as a fan, I'm thinking, if I kept saying, Blacklist, you're so amazing, Blacklist, you could have beat ONIC, honestly, I think I'm doing my team short. I think I'm not giving them the justice that they deserve. I think if I said that, it wouldn't really like show what exactly how I feel. Because if I said that, they would be like, all right, cool. Maybe we just needed to fix this draft here. Maybe we shouldn't have been as aggressive over here. With a score like 80, they would be like, whoa, we used to be 100. If we won, we could have been 100. What else could we have fixed? And I think that's the mindset that they have, honestly. Having spoken to everyone, knowing even Oheb, knowing specifically this kid and Edward, that's exactly what they are. They're so calculated. So they're literally the traditional textbook Asian kids. If they fail, like, oh, what can I do? How could I have disappointed mom and dad? Like, what do I do? And I think that's what the 80 is. 80 is the Asian fail. So if this is the grade that we give them, it's the kind of focus it's the kind of like grade that will get them focused back. So yeah, that's where I'm coming from. That's part personal and part professional. Like, I hope you guys really get this fixed. It's an 80 for me. So we'll wrap up and then we'll average the scores. People agree. Again, I hope no words were said that were disagreeable. Because again, we're being objective here. Let's see what the final report card is. Again, it's the Weber Bros plus Gideon. Here's the average. Let's go. Let's show us the report card. Oh. Oh my God, next play evil.
Yeah. Yeah, seems about right. I like where this is going.
Nice to say it again.
I don't know what colleges you guys went to, but in my college, 70 was just like, you almost failed, but yeah, you got good job, you passed.
No, that's
You're still
bug
in my
sack,
class.
bro. Bug sack.
That's
Wow,
bug sack, bro.
Man, that's a straight college you went to, dude.
No. 75 was the passing for me. Science high school. My girlfriend went to a science high school. 80 was the passing for her, I think, or 85. So yeah, man. Next play Evos. They really have to fix this up. They really need to go back to the drawing board. I don't know what Zico's planning. I think Midnight has already left. I'm not sure how official that is. But yeah, Naisu. Bug sack, bro.
Bug sack.
Bug sack. Now, Gideon, having graded all these teams, did any of these scores come to a surprise after we averaged?
After averaging it, I think this is generally about right. This is generally where I was expecting it to land. Yeah, Blacklist International at 90, ONIC Philippines at 85, Next Play EVOS. As long as they were lower than somewhat Omega at the very least, I think That would have been okay. Echo slightly higher than Omega, makes sense. RSGPH at 85, same as ONIC Philippines. I think, after their one performance, especially when they were especially stealing the win from RRQ of all people, fair enough. It makes sense. If it was 85 or 80, both scores I would have been okay with.
All right, seems legit. Renmar, you may have very muddy memory, bro. Even for Tito, his passing score was 75. I don't know why yours was 70. What was that?
Yeah, I admit I remembered it wrong. It was 75 for our passing. And that I didn't mess it up because I kept getting 70s. No. What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you
I only
talking
got
about,
75.
man?
Yeah, we have a teacher in the house, all right? And he says that's bug sack, man. let's get it fixed, all right? So I love it. 90, that's an Asian fail. That's a champion's fail, all right? We expected so much more. So back to the drawing board. Hoping to see them come back stronger. And all the other teams, definitely room to grow. For now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go on a quick break. We'll talk about the Malaysian teams, the Indonesian teams, and of course, we'll do guest coin when we return. MPLI Recall will be right back. Don't go anywhere.